I mean, we're calling it a trade war because Canada has already said that they're going to retaliate across the board with, tariffs on alcohol, coffee, clothing and shoes, furniture, household appliances, whiskeys, fruit from Florida, all of these issues. You're saying that this is really more of a negotiation to try and say, no, we want more focus on the border. And if you give that to us, these go away.
This is not what I'm saying. People need to read the executive order. President Trump has said this is about the fentanyl crisis, right? No, but so I don't know how somebody reads the executive order if you're Canada and then comes back and says, oh, we're going to start a trade war. We're saying we're really, really serious about going after fentanyl, and President Trump means it. And so there's all this fentanyl shipping across the borders. There, in the past, have been caravans of people parading across our border, carrying drugs and other things. And the response of our neighbors has not been, hey, we're going to help you stop this problem. It's go ahead and build a wall. So imagine, Becky, if I had like all this stuff going on in my house next to yours and all this stuff was leaking into your property. And then you say, Kevin, you got to stop all that crime in your place. And I'm like, hey, you know what? Becky, build a wall. That's disrespectful. And this is the attitude the president has towards what's going on right now. He wants them to be respectful of the United States and help solve the problem rather than feed it.
What is the chances that this gets resolved today and there's an 11th hour agreement before midnight?
Well, there's always a chance, right? I mean, this is a negotiation. The United States is requesting something from all three countries. And we have a call set up with Prime Minister Trudeau, President Sheinbaum today, with the president directly, which I do think is a good sign, right? These conversations have progressed to the top. And what was striking to me on Saturday, following the president's announcement and the issuance of these executive orders, was President Trudeau's press conference in which he said he had not had conversations with the president all week about this specific issue. So I do think that a call is trending in the right direction, but whether or not what Canada and Mexico offer the United States is enough will be a decision by the president and the president alone.
I haven't seen these figures myself say that something like only 40 pounds of fentanyl was found at the Canadian border versus a much huger position down in the south part of this border. This is a way to get people to the table to say we are going to attack this and work with you, and that would call off all of these tariffs that are going to be put in place? President
Trump will decide what he's going to call off and what he's not, but he wants everybody at the table.
There's not a clear set of standards that say if you do X, Y, and Z, this won't happen.
Well, they clearly haven't done it in the past. And, the amount of organized crime in the fentanyl space in Canada is also very disturbing. And so it's not just a measure of like 40 pounds here and there. The fact is the president has set a very clear guideline for people to work with him collaboratively. These are some of our best trading partners and our best friends to solve this incredible problem that has been spinning out of control, and that they've not really been addressing. And again, in Edmonton last summer, I walked out of my hotel and they had an ambulance there helping somebody who had OD'd, sadly, on fentanyl. And then as I'm walking to my restaurant, two people get in a fight with the cops over drugs right there just in downtown Edmonton. And this is just my one day when I'm staying there. And the fact is that Canada is like San Francisco and it's spreading to the U.S. and it needs to stop. And that's what the Canadian people want. And it's what the American people want too.
So you think this goes on for only a couple of weeks? Tell me why.
Because it's going to be very painful for all sides, right? These tariffs has potential to knock off about 3 to 5% of U.S. earnings, right? You're only looking about 9.5 to 10% earnings growth this year. So you're at the worst case scenario, you're cutting those in half.
Meaning you think the companies are going to pay for this? It's not going to get passed on to consumers?
No. So it's going to hit both sides, right? So it raises import costs, and then also it's going to hit consumers as well. So consumers necessarily are going to start to try to think about how they can get around these things. But when you're thinking about auto exports and, company cars that people drive, that's an issue.
Economic potential impact at the administration?
We're working on getting the final numbers for the president's budget as we speak. But I can tell you that the growth that we saw in President Trump's first term pre-COVID is looking like it's going to be a low number compared to what we get when we run all of President policies through the president's budget. And again, I would ask people to do this. And I've been very public about this on your show last fall, that if you want to analyze the policy effect of the Trump administration, you need to look at all of them and not just take like a couple of papers that say that tariffs are bad and say that's the whole thing that's going to happen. But if we model the whole thing, that we're definitely getting growth that is, as President said, looks like a golden age to us.
This is the primal scream of a dying regime.
MAGA media. I wish in my soul, that any of these people had a conscience.
Ask yourself, what is my task and what is my purpose? If that answer is to save my country, this country will be saved.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Monday, 3 February in the year of our Lord 2025. Days of Thunder continue on, and I think it's very important now to for the War Room posse, because we do have a lot of work to do. We have confirmations we got to get up on the ramparts on a little bit later. But to understand or begin to understand what's going on, this is obviously the flood the zone strategy to the nth degree. And it's a little bit broken the Democrats. Chuck Schumer, in fact, I don't know if we can have the tape, but he's in Semaphore, and we're hunting for the tape where he says, we're not going to fall for Bannon's flood the zone strategy. We're going to focus. Well, so far they haven't focused. They've been overwhelmed. Right there, we just did the tariffs. And I want to get to that in a second, since obviously we're very we're pro the American system from Alexander Hamilton, which is protectionist, and tariffs are part of it. President Trump's philosophy is that this is a premium market, and you got to get through the golden door. You got to pay a premium price. Now, he used in this effort, he used a what's called the emergency authorization. It was put in back in the time of Nixon. After Nixon, remember we talked about Nixon, the gold standard. Nixon started throwing tariffs around, and they wanted a little bit to control him. So they had a set of criteria you had to have for it to call an emergency. This is not the 301s and the 302s we used in the first term, as they laid it there to get to basically, remember, Alcoa and particularly U.S. Steel, to get the steel and aluminum tariffs. This is much more of a national emergency measure. Now, so President Trump is doing that. I use this term geoeconomic and geostrategic. Take your number 2 pencil out and write those down. Geoeconomic and geostrategic, and they're inextricably linked. This is combining geopolitics with obviously national security and military strategy, national strategy with economic strategy. Right now we have Pete Hegseth is going to the border to make sure the U.S. Army and the Marine Corps are all deployed along the border so we can shut down, seal the border. Tom Homan's reporting that I think 93% drop in folks coming across the border. We're almost sealed. That part of it is Mexico, understanding what's going on here. That President Trump is playing hardball, the hardest ball you can play, which is really to put up a moat, or to put a toll to get into this lucrative market of the United States. Because to be brutally frank, Canada and Mexico cannot exist. They will go into a depression immediately if they can't get access to the U.S. market. Marco Rubio's in Panama. Marco Rubio goes to Panama, has, a 30-minute meeting. And the Panamanian president says, okay, we're out of One Belt, One Road. Remember One Belt, One Road? This is the Chinese networking system of using predatory capitalism like the British East India Company to basically encircle the Eurasian landmass, also to encircle the United States in the Western Hemisphere. President Trump's strategy, his initial strategy, is a hemispheric defense of not just North America, but Central America and Latin America. Monroe Doctrine 2.0. You throw Canada in there, and it makes total logic for the Canadians to partner up with us to end their alignment with the British dominions, and to partner with us because of the Arctic, the new great game of the 21st century. Also, the economics relating to trade with them, specifically the Western provinces.